You know, when you sit down and you strip away the noise, the bias, the fear, the politics, you start to see something real, something pure. That's what this Israeli scholar was talking about. He said, and you better listen closely. He said the purity of Islam's monotheism, the logic of it, the clarity of it, stands like a mountain when everything else crumbles like sand. Now let me tell you something. He wasn't speaking from emotion. He wasn't trying to win favors. He was speaking from a place where truth doesn't need to be dressed up. It's just true. Think about it. Islam says God is one. One without partners. One without images. One without limits. Not born, doesn't give birth, doesn't get tired, doesn't sleep, doesn't need anything from anyone. That's not complicated. That's not something you have to wrestle with late at night, trying to make it fit into human flaws. That's straight up, undeniable logic. You hear it and it sits in your chest heavy because it's pure, because it's real. It respects the mind. It respects the heart. And this scholar, he said, in Islam, the concept of God is so perfect that there is no confusion, no philosophical gymnastics to make it make sense. He said, it speaks to the fitra. You know what that is. That's the natural instinct inside every human being to recognize truth when they hear it. It's not foreign. It doesn't hit the ears wrong. It doesn't need 1,000-page dissertations to explain itself. It just is. And he said, that's where Islam stands alone. Because when you look at all these systems, all these isms, these doctrines, these man-made ideologies, you find inconsistencies, you find contradictions, you find things that don't add up unless you close your eyes and just take a leap. But with Islam, he said, you find a consistency so tight, so firm that even when you come with doubt, you leave with understanding. You come with questions, you leave with peace. He talked about the Shahada, the testimony of faith, just 2 simple lines. And he said, how can something so small, so humble, carry so much weight? Because when you say it, you're aligning yourself with a truth bigger than your name, bigger than your nationality, bigger than your past mistakes. That's not man-made. That's not politics. That's not somebody's personal opinion. That's recognizing the one and only, the way it was always meant to be recognized. No confusion, no middlemen, no statues, no bloodlines, just one creator and the ones he created. And when you hear this Israeli scholar, you realize he wasn't trying to convert anybody. He wasn't even trying to impress anybody. He was bearing witness. That's the power of truth when it stands in front of you. You either see it or you deny it. But it doesn't bend for you. It doesn't beg you. It doesn't beg you. It just waits for you to catch up. At the end of the day, truth is like the sun. You can close your eyes. You can hide in a cave. You can turn your back. But it's still shining right where it's always been. You know, when you step back from the noise, when you really step back and you look at history with honest eyes, not colored by your own pride or by what you were taught to believe, you start to see something undeniable. Islam didn't just show up one day out of nowhere. It didn't pop out of the desert with some brand new story. No, sir. Islam is the continuation. It's the confirmation. It's the thread that ties everything together from the very beginning until now. That's what this Israeli scholar pointed out. And when you hear it, you realize he wasn't making a point. He was exposing a fact. From Adam to Noah, to Abraham, to Moses, to Jesus, peace be upon them all. The message has been one and the same. Worship the one true God. Follow his guidance. Live righteously. Don't invent your own rules. Don't worship yourselves. Don't bow down to what your own hands have made. Every single prophet came with that same call. Not once, not twice. Over and over. Across continents. Across centuries. Across nations that never met, never spoke the same language. How do you explain that consistency unless it's real? This scholar said something powerful. He said, when you study the scriptures of the world, you find men trying to explain God. But when you look at Islam, you find God explaining himself. There's a big difference there. A huge difference. In Islam, the Quran doesn't read like somebody guessing. It doesn't sound like someone struggling to describe something too big for their imagination. It's direct, it's bold, it's clear. God speaks to you, commanding you, warning you, loving you, all at once. You don't need to twist it. You don't need to update it. You don't need 10,000 councils to vote on it every few years. It came perfect, and it stayed perfect. And he said, when you trace it back, what you find is that Islam isn't a new religion. It's the original religion. It's not Muhammad, peace be upon him, inventing something new. It's Muhammad bringing it all back to what it was supposed to be, correcting the changes, fixing the corruption, peeling off the layers of politics and pride that buried the truth over centuries. That's what real consistency looks like. That's what the scholar saw. And when you see it too, you can't unsee it. Because when truth shows up, it doesn't shout. It doesn't scream for your approval. It stands tall, unmoved, like it always belonged there. And you either recognize it or you turn your back and walk away. But know this, history will remember who stood with truth and who ran from it. At the end of the day, Islam isn't just a faith that fits the past. It's the bridge that carries truth from the first man to the last. Now listen to me close, because what I'm about to say might shake the dust off the way you think about faith. See, anybody can claim they have the truth. Anybody can say their message is from God. But the question is, can you prove it? Can you show me that what you hold in your hand today is the same exact thing that was delivered 1400 years ago? Or did it change hands, get rewritten, re-edited, twisted, and turned until nobody even remembers what the original message was? That's where Islam stands apart from the rest. And that's what this Israeli scholar couldn't deny. He said, when you look at the Quran, not with hatred, not with prejudice, but with fairness, you see something that's never happened with any other scripture in human history. You see a book that has been preserved word for word, letter for letter, sound for sound, from the moment it was revealed till this very second. Not one sentence added, not one letter missing, not one secret committee meeting to decide what stays and what gets cut out. It came down perfect, and it stayed perfect. And that's not just a feeling. That's fact. That's historical record. He said, you can go to the mountains of Morocco, the deserts of Arabia, the jungles of Indonesia, and you will find people, millions of them, who have memorized this book cover to cover, word for word, page for page. From a time before printing presses, from a time before mass communication, ask yourself, how could that happen? How could a book not just survive, but live in the hearts of men and women, generation after generation, unchanged, unless it was protected not by people, but by the one who sent it down? And it's not just the Quran. No, sir. It's the Hadith too, the sayings, the actions, the approvals of the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him. They didn't just pass them down like old fairy tales. They recorded them with precision, chain of narrator after chain of narrator, checking who said what, when they said it, where they said it, who heard them, who knew them, what their character was like, scrutinizing every detail like their salvation depended on it. Because it did. No other faith tradition on earth has a system that even comes close. You can argue opinions. You can argue feelings, but you can't argue facts. And the fact is, Islam has an unbroken chain. A living, breathing miracle that you can hold in your hands, recite on your tongue, and pass down to your children without a single crack in the foundation. And the scholar said it plain. When something stays preserved without corruption, without contradiction, without confusion, generation after generation, that's not human work. That's divine protection. Because at the end of the day, truth doesn't just survive history, it commands it. You know, when people talk about morality today, it's like a leaf blowing in the wind. 1 minute it's right, next minute it's wrong. Depends who you ask, depends what year it is, depends which way the wind's blowing. That's the world we're living in. A world where right and wrong keep shifting like sand under your feet. But Islam Islam planted a flag in the ground 14 centuries ago. Right was right then, and it's right now. Wrong was wrong then, and it's wrong now. That's not by accident. That's not from men sitting around making up rules. That's from the one who made right and wrong in the first place. This Israeli scholar said it so clearly, it could knock the breath out your lungs. He said, Islam doesn't chase society's morality, it defines it. It doesn't wait for kings or presidents or popular opinion to tell you how to behave. It laid it down once and for all. Justice for the rich, justice for the poor, mercy for the weak, accountability for the strong. Doesn't matter your tribe, doesn't matter your skin, doesn't matter your money. You stand before truth naked? No excuses, no privileges. You see, in Islam, justice isn't a slogan. It's a sacred trust. It's not about taking sides with your people against others. It's about standing on what's right even if it's against yourself. Even if it costs you. Even if it hurts. Even if it hurts. That's real morality. That's real justice. And when you read the Quran, you feel it. It hits you in the gut because it's not soft. It's not watered down. It's not negotiated. It calls you to something higher. Calls you to something bigger than your own desire. The scholar said, Islamic law wasn't designed to please kings. It wasn't built to make life easy for the powerful. It was revealed to protect the orphan, the widow, the stranger, the slave, the weak. Imagine that. A system where the first thought isn't how can I protect the throne? It's how can I protect the ones with no throne, no money, no voice. And this isn't just ancient history either. Wherever real Islam showed up, you saw civilization rise out of ignorance. You saw hospitals built when the world didn't even know what healthcare was. You saw women's rights when other cultures treated women like property. You saw treaties and justice systems and laws protecting the rights of non-Muslims under Muslim rule. And you ask yourself, where did that spirit come from? Not from man. Man is selfish. Man is tribal. Man is greedy. No, that spirit came from revelation, straight from the source. Because at the end of the day, when man makes the rules, the strong eat the weak. But when God makes the rules, even the weakest have a seat at the table. You ever meet somebody who's got all the answers, but their soul's still restless? You ever see that? Maybe they got degrees on the wall. They can quote a dozen philosophers. They know a little bit about everything. But when you look in their eyes, there's no peace there. No anchor. Just noise. Just confusion wrapped up in fancy words. That's the world today. A world full of information, but starving for truth. Dying of thirst right next to an ocean. And then you meet Islam, and suddenly you realize something you didn't even know you were searching for. See, Islam doesn't ask you to throw your mind in the trash. It doesn't tell you to stop thinking. It invites you to think deeper, stronger, clearer. It tells you, look at the signs in the heavens, in the earth, in yourself. It says, reflect, ponder, ask. Because truth doesn't fear questions, truth welcomes them. That's what this Israeli scholar said. He said, when I studied Islam, I didn't find blind faith. I found a faith that welcomed my mind, my logic, my reason. He said, I found a faith that didn't just want me to believe, it wanted me to understand. And when you hear that, you realize, Islam isn't a prison for the mind. It's freedom. Real freedom. Not the freedom to drown in confusion, the freedom to stand on certainty. And it doesn't stop there. Because the heart, the soul, it's hungry too. You can fill your head with facts, but if your heart's empty, you're still lost. Islam speaks to that hunger too. It tells you why you were created. It tells you why you suffer, why you love, why you lose. It connects your pain to your purpose. It gives meaning to the moments nobody else can explain. When you bury a loved one, when you sit alone in the dark, when you wonder what it all means, Islam is right there whispering, this life is a test, and the next life, that's the real home. That's the real home. See, Islam isn't just a philosophy. It's not a bunch of quotes to sound smart at dinner parties. It's a way of life that feeds the mind and heals the heart at the same time. And the scholar said, That's why I couldn't turn away. Because once you taste something real, something that satisfies your mind and your soul, everything else feels hollow. Everything else feels fake. And you realize truth isn't just something you know. It's something you live. It's something you feel pounding in your chest every morning you wake up. Something that makes you walk different, talk different, pray different, hope different. Because at the end of the day, the mind might search for answers, but the soul knows when it's finally home. You know, there's something about a journey that changes you. It's one thing to talk about truth. It's one thing to read about it, hear about it from others. But it's another thing entirely to go looking for it with everything you've got. That's when you really find out what you believe. That's when you start to understand what's real and what's not. This Israeli scholar didn't just study Islam like a man reading a book in a library. No, he didn't do that. He went on a journey, a real journey, a search, a quest. And let me tell you, that kind of journey isn't comfortable. It doesn't always feel good. It challenges your whole foundation. It makes you question everything you thought you knew about yourself. It humbles you. It humbles you in a way that nothing else can. But that's the kind of honesty you need when you're searching for the truth. That's the kind of humility you need when you stand in front of the Creator and ask, "Show me the way," he said. I looked everywhere. I studied every philosophy. I read the scriptures of every faith. I questioned every belief. He didn't go looking for something easy. He went looking for something real. Something that didn't just make him feel good for a moment, but something that would last. Something that would stand in the face of the storms and the struggles of life. And when he found Islam, he didn't just find a religion. He found an answer. A way of life that made sense of the chaos in his heart, the confusion in his mind. And it wasn't because Islam made everything easy. No, sir. Islam gave him something much more powerful. It gave him clarity. The scholar didn't sugarcoat it. He didn't tell people, "Oh, just come to Islam and your life will be perfect." No, he said, "You'll still have pain. You'll still have trials. But now you'll have a purpose. You'll have a direction. That's what truth does for you. It doesn't erase the struggle, but it makes the struggle worth something. It makes it meaningful. It gives you something to hold on to when everything else is slipping through your fingers. And you know what? That's what Islam does for every person who searches for it with an open heart. It's not about pretending the world isn't tough. It's about understanding that the tough stuff in this world is temporary, but the peace Islam brings, the peace it gives to your soul, the peace it gives to your heart, that's eternal. It doesn't fade away when the problems come. It doesn't disappear when the storms hit. It stands strong because it's built on truth. It's built on the solid foundation of knowing who you are, where you came from, and where you're going. So, the scholar's journey wasn't about finding a religion to fit his life. It was about finding the truth that would shape his life. And that's what real truth does. It shapes you. It doesn't just sit on a shelf. It doesn't just become another thing you check off the list. It changes the way you think. It changes the way you walk. It changes the way you treat others. It changes the way you treat yourself. That's the power of truth. And when you find it, when you finally recognize it for what it is, you don't just know it, you live it. And in living it, you find peace, real peace. And that peace doesn't depend on the world around you. It depends on what's inside you.